Hey friends! Welcome back to TJKidz Super Fun Stories, where imagination becomes reality. Today we've got a story about a Brobot. Am I reading that right? Is that a typo? Who's writing this stuff? What could that mean? I've heard of robots, of course, but never a Brobot. We've got to see what this is all about. So grab a comfy spot, get cozy, and join me for this adventure. The Brobot. Nate sat at his computer, scrolling through lines of code and double-checking every command. A few moments later, his dad peeked in the room and asked, "Hey, how's the project coming along?" "Great," said Nate. "We're just about to start the assembly. Thanks for letting us take over the garage for a while. If this thing works the way we planned, we're winning the science fair for sure." "Well, you two deserve it," Dad said. "You and Natalie have been working so hard." Just then the doorbell rang. "That's Natalie," said Nate. "I'll get it." "I'll leave you two to it," Dad said as he headed upstairs. Nate opened the door. "OMG, Natalie, are you pumped to code some robot magic? No cap, we're about to cook, for real, for real. Get those coding claws ready, we're slaying today." "Yes, I'm hyped," Natalie said. "This robot is gonna eat. We're building the most epic, most sick, most fire robot ever." The two friends headed out to the garage, ready to bring their science fair project to life. They had been coding and programming for weeks, and now it was finally time to transfer everything into the robot they'd built with Nate's dad's help. It stood about 2 feet tall, with a boxy metal body. Wires ran through the inside, and a few peeked out around the edges. It had little arms, little feet, a remote, and a couple of buttons. Simple, but ready for action. After a few hours of connecting wires, uploading code, and tightening screws, they were finally ready. "Okay," said Nate. "Are you hyped to put it to the test?" "Yes, Toad's gonna do it," Natalie replied. "Let's pheno it up, bro." She gave the first command. "Robot, walk to the bench." The robot walked to the bench. "Robot, pick up pencil," said Nate. The robot picked up a pencil. "OMG," Nate said. "Let's try speech now. Let's give it a squawk. Can it repeat back to us?" "Robot, repeat," said Natalie. "Good afternoon. How are you today?" The robot repeated perfectly. "Good afternoon. How are you today?" "OMG, it's actually talking!" Natalie shouted. "Mind blown!" Nate grinned. Okay, let's try something funny. Robot, repeat. This project is straight bussin', no cap." The robot repeated. "This project is straight bussin', no cap." Nate and Natalie screamed, laughing. "Bro, he actually said it!" Nate yelled. "That was fire," Natalie added. "He's low-key slaying already." "Okay," said Nate. "Now we need to lock in some of these responses so the robot can remember." For the next couple of hours, they taught the robot phrases like, "It's a lovely day for a walk," and "I'm doing great, thanks for asking. They programmed responses to questions, tested movements, and celebrated every success. By evening, they were done. The robot assembly was complete, and all programs had been uploaded. Natalie stayed for dinner, and afterward, the two of them hung out in the garage while the robot was charging. They talked, laughed, and celebrated. They were officially ready for the science fair tomorrow. "Bro," said Natalie, "we are going to slay that science fair." "OMG, yes," Nate replied. "I'm low-key obsessed with our experiment." They high-fived, and Natalie headed home. Their robot was working exactly the way they planned. The next day after school, the science fair began. Kids showed off volcanoes, solar systems, homemade slime projects. All impressive. But when Nate and Natalie rolled out their robot, the room went silent. Nate commanded the robot, "Robot, come here." The robot walked over to him. The crowd oohed and awed. "Hello, how is everyone doing today?" Natalie said to the audience. Then she turned to the robot. "Robot, greet the audience." The robot looked up. "Skibbity, yes, yes, fam. What's good, peeps? No cap, y'all look mad crispy today. Did you slay your morning or just roll out of bed and Sigma strut your way in like a boss?" The room erupted. Kids were screaming, laughing. Teachers looked horrified. Parents were confused, and the judges were already writing notes. Then a kid from the crowd shouted, "Hey, yo, that's not a robot, that's a Brobot." Nate and Natalie panicked. "Why is it saying that?" Nate whispered. "I don't know," Natalie whispered back. "We programmed all the commands last night." "Sorry about that, everyone," Natalie said to the crowd. "Must be some sort of glitch or bug. Let's try some other things. Who would like to volunteer?" One of the judges raised his hand. "Okay," Nate said to the judge. "Ask the robot a basic question." The judge asked, "How was your night last night?" The robot responded, "Bro, you don't even know. Last night was literally peak Riz, like Sigma level vibes. I mean, slay. Hold up. Buffering, recalibrating. Okay, yeah, everything was fire, fam." The judge looked utterly confused. More giggles rang out from the crowd. One kid pointed at the robot and said, "Ha, it's true. You're totally a Brobot." The robot turned to the kid. "Hey, bro, what are you LOLing about? I'm totally crushing it. My skills are bussin'. My vibe is skibbity, like hype level chaos fam. And I'm the GOAT, the boss, the best." Then Natalie turned to Nate. "Uh-oh." "What do you mean, uh-oh?" Nate asked. "Uh-oh what? Uh-oh, our robot is a total Brobot disaster? We're cooked. We're done. We're fried." "I mean, uh-oh, I think I may know what is happening," Natalie said. "I may have uploaded a learning code last night. I thought it would be a cool feature so it could learn new things. I didn't expect it would learn so fast. I think maybe while we were hanging out after programming the Brobot, it downloaded our conversation style. Nate looked horrified. You did what? Natalie, everyone must think we did this on purpose. But do we actually sound like that? That is so cringe. Okay, we need to get off this stage, Natalie whispered. Then she commanded the robot. Say goodbye, Brobot. Brobot addressed the crowd. Bye, fabulous peeps. Stay Sigma, stay slayin', stay skibbity. I'll miss you, fam. The crowd erupted in laughter. As Nate and Natalie walked off the stage, the laughter turned to applause, then a standing ovation. The crowd absolutely loved Brobot. Nate and Natalie were confused. They thought this was an epic failure. Nate commanded the robot to walk back to the stage and take a bow. He did, and the crowd erupted even louder. Then they all started chanting, Brobot, Brobot, Brobot. Nate and Natalie actually ended up winning first prize for both complexity and creativity. They went up to the stage one final time to claim their first place ribbons. One judge stood clapping and said, Brobot, any final words of wisdom? Brobot responded, Yes, chase your sparkles, no cap. Never let anyone nerf your vibe. Keep slaying and keep rizzing up your dreams. Stay frosty and grin like a goat. Everyone laughed. Nate turned to Natalie. I still can't believe we sound like that. OMG, I'm dying, Natalie replied. Laughing so hard I'm crying. Ugh, so cringy. After the awards, a group of kids ran up to Brobot. One said, Brobot, say something skibbity. Brobot responded, Skibbity, yes, yes, initiating hype mode. Another added, Hey Brobot, rate my fit. No cap. Brobot scanned him from head to toe. Fit detected. Bussin'. Confidence level. Certified. And the third kid asked, Brobot, how's my riz? Brobot paused, then said, Your riz is mid and your vibe is Sigma adjacent. Then he announced, Slay responsibly, fam. The kids screamed laughing. Nate and Natalie looked at each other. Bro, Nate said, he's actually the GOAT. No cap, Natalie replied. Our Brobot totally slayed. The end. And that is the end of our story, friends. Wow, Nate and Natalie really thought their robot was going to be calm, quiet, and perfectly programmed. And instead, they ended up with a full-on Brobot who was slaying, bussing, and causing hype-level chaos all over the science fair. Honestly, I think the judges were just as shocked as everyone else. But sometimes the funniest surprises end up being the best part of the adventure. And that leads me to a moral I learned from today's story. Sometimes things don't go exactly the way you planned, but that doesn't mean they can't turn out amazing. Even unexpected moments can shine, teach you something new, and maybe even win first place. So don't be afraid of surprises. Sometimes they're straight fire. What did you learn? Well, that's enough sleigh mode for today, friends. Thanks for vibing high. Catch you next time. No cap. Toodles!